Hello, everybody. Welcome to our new and exciting webinar introducing 3 new products and step into the generation 5 of cybersecurity. So what will we be talking about today? We will be raising 3 main topics. The first is Infinity Total Protection. That's a game-changing new consumption model, which we'll be talking about, that enables you to get a simple, all-inclusive per user per year subscription offering. We'll be talking about CloudGuard and the new offering that we have here, which provides a comprehensive suite of products that delivers proactive protections of cloud data, workloads, and networks and application. We're going to talk about the IaaS and the SaaS. And Smart One 525, 5050, and 5150, which were recently launched, and that's what we're going to talk about. So just before we dive into this, a couple of housekeeping. This session is recorded and will be uploaded to Wiki with the relevant PowerPoints. We'll do that once we finalize the 2 sessions that we have today. This is an interactive session. You have a Q&A chat box. Please use that, and we'll have a live Q&A session at the end of the session for all 3 sections. So please feel free to use that. Okay, so let's start our session to talk about, start with Checkpoint Infinity Total Protection. So my name is Noam Green. I'm the head of product management and product marketing here at Checkpoint. I'm in charge of Infinity as well as different products such as the gateways, the smart ones, etc. With me is Gil Gabay, product manager for the security management, and Yoav Shai Danieli, he'll the product manager for the CloudGuard, who will be talking about that. So I will introduce them as we move forward. So let's start with some background as what has happened last year. We've seen everything obviously becoming more and more connected, from mobile devices to IoTs. We've seen attacks coming everywhere, from WannaCry and ransomwares, and then hitting hundreds of companies globally, moving also into the physical domain, from hotels, and even I would say National Health Service, of course, that we've seen in the UK. We've seen mobile attacks becoming more and more prevalent, with over 1 million Google accounts that were breached by Gulligan. And of course, unfortunately, a lot of these attacks make use of the most dangerous tools, a lot of times actually leaked or stolen from government-based industries such as the NSA. So what does that actually mean for us in 2018? Was 2017 what we call a cybersecurity wake-up call? What we see is that if you look at the different generations that have happened in cybersecurity and the different types of attacks that we've seen. So in the 1980s and 1990s, we had the first generation of viruses. We had antiviruses. Then the generation number 2, which included network-related malwares. We then put in the firewall. Generation 3 with applications. Generation 4 with payloads. And of course, generation 5, which is what we saw last year, is what we call the generation of the mega attacks. What we do see is that, unfortunately, the protections that are actually used in this domain do not live up to the level of generations of attacks that we make. If we look at what customers were using in 2016, then we can see that overall, network sandboxing was used only by 7%, only less than 1% were using mobile security, and cloud security only by 2%. 2017 has led us to a situation where we've got significantly more users on the sandboxing, but on mobile security and on cloud security, we're still lower than what we would want. Therefore, we are still not using the most effective security. In fact, if we try to see what customers are actually using today, then we have, I'd say, two main types of architectures. We have what is sometimes referred to as the best-of-breed architecture, where you would use multi-vendor security for different types of technologies. You'd have a firewall, you'd have an IPS, you'd have antivirus, etc. Every one of these would be using a different technology vendor. Essentially, the main issue here is that these technologies do not provide a full blanket coverage, and therefore we do see these holes and the breaches and detection, and therefore what we get at the end of the day is the need for better mitigation tools and obviously remediation, because these protections don't actually help to fully protect these companies. On the other hand, we have what we call the architecture, which is a unified architecture, one which is provided by a single vendor, where provided that all the different kinds of technologies in a unified architecture, and therefore is able to actually provide this level of security that we in fact need. This is what we call the Checkpoint Infinity architecture, which is a unified architecture which provides all levels from firewall to real-time threat prevention, real-time information sharing, and of course the ability to share all this information using a single pane of glass for management and threat visibility. If you even look at the numbers that we actually saw in a recent survey that we've conducted, you can see that the average time it takes for customers to identify an attack is about 40 days. The cost of remediation is about $650,000, while using a unified architecture, you have an average of 2 days to identify an attack, with only a fraction of that, with about $7,000 of cost to remediate the cost of attack. This also means that the cost of attack grows exponentially as time grows and goes by. So what does that mean? It means that we have to step up to the fifth generation. The fifth generation of attacks requires the fifth generation of cybersecurity. What does that mean? We need to have the consolidated management architecture, which has a first-time prevention with the most advanced technologies. It means that we need to have shared and actionable intelligence that is shared between all the different components in the network. And of course, it needs to be able to do that across networks, desktops, laptops, cloud, mobile. All the different kinds of entry points that can happen into the network have to have these capabilities in order to fully protect the network. And this is what we call Checkpoint Infinity. So one would say you need an army of security technologies in order to do that. And there is indeed a lot of different technology that is involved. However, this can and is possible. And it is possible by obviously using all these technologies in a simple and unified way, which we call Checkpoint Infinity, which is the way to actually make all these technologies work in a unified way towards protecting the actual enterprise. So once we understand the value of Checkpoint Infinity and how all these components work together, let's talk a bit about the different types of business models. So previously we used to have, and we used to even sell separate point solution. We used to have mobile security, we used to have cloud security, we used to have different kinds of appliances, sandblast and 0 days. So we're moving from that towards selling a consolidated architecture, which is Checkpoint Infinity. If previously we used to have different prices and business models and complex and unpredictable pricing, we're moving into a model which is very, very simple, very predictable pricing, very predictable business model. So I'm happy to introduce to you Checkpoint Infinity Total Protection. Infinity Total Protection is actually an all-inclusive consumption model for the fifth generation of cybersecurity. What does that actually include? This is an all-inclusive business model, which includes essentially everything that you would need in order to protect your enterprise. And this means it includes essentially both software, hardware, security subscription, services, and support, all in a simple per user, per year pricing. This is the only model that is available today that provides this kind of solution. So what does that actually mean? It means that you are able to consume all of Check Point Infinity's products and solution, meaning the advanced threat prevention and zero-day protection, Check Point network software and appliances. I'll talk about how appliances and hardware actually fits into this domain. It also includes endpoint and mobile protections for all users, and of course 24/7 premium support included. Let's dive into slightly more into the details. So you pay a cost per user per year. We talk about $300 per user per year, out of which you are able to use 50% of your total spend and towards hardware purchasing. I'll give an example, but essentially if you were to spend $100,000 with Check Point, that means that every year, $100,000 per year with Check Point Infinity Total Protection, then that means that every year you're able to purchase hardware for $50,000. That means 50% of that, which can be diverted towards hardware purchases. In addition, you are able to get 5% of the total spend used towards professional services, such as incident response services, training services, and other functionalities like that. And of course, you get 24/7 premium support. This means that now the enterprise has a very simple, predictive, and all-inclusive model, which includes software, hardware, services, and support, all in the same simple price. It does mean that when we talk about the Check Point Infinity Total Protection, it means that we are focusing at customers who get that, meaning that any existing install base will need to continue to require separate support and services. We are talking about customers who either migrate into Infinity and disable their current configuration, or to new customers, which is of course one of the main aspects of where we're aiming this model. So let's talk about the general guidelines. I will also have a frequently asked questions just before I will finish my session. So the target audience we talk about are customers over 500 employees. We talk about aiming this at greenfield customers. That's where we would like that to go. It's much easier to actually provide this service, or existing Check Point customers with limited Check Point footprints who are willing to redesign the security architecture and looking into consolidating to a single vendor. We are also aiming this at enterprises who do not provide managed services. For example, let's assume you have a customer who is the next Dropbox, where the majority of his traffic and users are not his own, right? They are actually reselling these services. Then Check Point Infinity Total Protection is probably not suited for them. This is in order to protect the actual enterprise itself. Let's talk a bit about hardware. The annual hardware credit, we mentioned 50% of the annual spend. Consumption is done at list price against the budgeted amount. Hardware credit bucket is annual and must be utilized within the relevant subscription year. And you are able, as an enterprise, to replace your hardware at any time, as long as you have hardware credit for that. And we would like you to do that no longer than 4 years after you've actually set up this service. You get zero-day threat prevention, or we call the NGTX bundle, on all security gateways. And that's because we're aiming at giving you the highest and most secure service possible. Software networks, and what I mean by software networks, I'm talking about the cloud service such as CloudGuard, security gateways, open server, and security management open servers. These are provided based on the customer requirements. We have a workshop with the customer to understand what he needs, and essentially whatever he needs, he will get. All software products and services are valid during the duration of the Infinity contract. Sorry. Once the customer decides, if he decides to leave the Infinity Total Protection, these licenses expire. So the goal here is obviously try and get as many new customers as possible, new logos. Nevertheless, if you have a unique specific case, for example, if you have not 500 users and above, but 499, please feel free to contact us. If you have any other specific details and criteria which do not exactly meet what we were talking about, then make sure you contact us. You can contact us at infinity@checkpoint.com. It's a very difficult email to remember. Let's give you a couple of frequently asked questions. So how much hardware can be utilized with Infinity Total Protection? So we said up to 50% of the total spend per year, and there's no carryover to the following years. For example, if I have an enterprise with 5,000 users paying $300 per user per year, that means that every year this customer can acquire $750,000 worth of equipment per year, according to their list price, as well as getting $75,000 of services, for example, such as Checkpoint learning credits or incident response services. How often can hardware be replaced, and who owns the hardware? At any time and no longer than after 4 years. As we mentioned, we want to make sure that our customers use it, the most newest and strongest hardware products, and the customer owns the hardware. What is the channel discount for Infinity deals? So the Infinity Total Protection offering is a final customer price, the $300 final customer price, where the disti and the registered deal partner receive a secure margin. How do existing customers make use of Infinity Total Protection? Services and support cover only products installed as parts of the Infinity Total Protection package. Existing install base will continue to require separate support and services. Can customers add Diamond support? Absolutely. However, this is not included as part of the ITP bundling and is charged separately. Will the ITP appear in the product catalog? The thing is that ITP is very customer-tuned proposal, and therefore it is handled by the account team with the support of the business center, and that's why you have that email which you can contact whenever you have a specific deal. We've seen a lot of different cases out there, and therefore we want to handle these manually, at least at the beginning. So we talk about maximum security you get with Infinity, and with Infinity Total Protection you get the most complete threat prevention in the industry. It's an all-inclusive package, all verticals, hardware, software, subscription, and support, and it includes simple pricing per user per year. And of course, that enables the customers to move towards predictive spend. Now, one of the things that we've heard a lot from customers is that the main pain that they have a lot of times is going back and asking for new budgets. Having this means that deciding when you implement any one of the products and the projects is easily handled by the customer. He doesn't need to go back to the management to ask for more budget. Everything is included very, very easily handled by the customer from there. If you got any questions or any clarifications, you can use infinity@checkpoint.com. I will now move it on to Yoav, who will be talking about protecting SaaS applications, and Yoav Shai Danieli, who's the product management for that domain. Yoav, over to you.
Before I start the presentation, I want to mention that Checkpoint has announced a new product family. This product family is called CloudGuard, and all the Checkpoint cloud products are part of this new product family. Today, we will focus in this session on CloudGuard SaaS. 70% of the organizations already adopted cloud applications, and many of them ask themselves, are we secure? And I want to answer that by reviewing a real case from the field. And in this case, it's about K Financials. K moved their email to the cloud, to Office 365. The customers received email invoices with fake bank accounts. And those emails were actually sent by a hacker who took over an email account. $2 million got stolen in this case. If we look at the news, then we see that the Fortune magazine reports that a major consultancy organization, Deloitte, got hacked. And again, that is a case about a SaaS application, about Office 365. The Independent magazine also reports that the British Parliament got hit by a cyber attack, and the MP's access to email was blocked as a result of almost 80 accounts that got compromised in this event. I wanted to further investigate SaaS application breaches, and I asked our incident response team to share the statistics that we see on the field. And our incident response team on the first 3 quarters of 2017 received 250 calls, and 55% of them were SaaS related. So the majority of the calls are about SaaS applications. And if we look at the different attack vectors, then we see 3 different attack vectors involved. One is account takeovers, where somebody manages to steal the credentials of a SaaS application and uses that, for example, to send fake invoices and monetize his investment. The second attack vector is malware delivery. People use the fact that the cloud has a very basic security, basic default security as part of it, to deliver malware. The cloud is accessible from everywhere. You can have a share open to everyone, and a malware can easily find itself synchronized across an entire organization. I want to also mention that today, over than 50% of the malware that we see is seen only one time, meaning over 50% of the malware is zero-day malware. Third is data leakage. Data leakage is about usually about an employee mindlessly sharing a document with the world, asking for a shareable link and making this document public. It is easy to share things on the cloud, and it is also easy to share it with everyone. Today, the SaaS security market is focused around data leakage. The CASBs focus on data leakage. But the reality is that the most important, the number one need in the SaaS, for securing SaaS applications is advanced threat prevention and generation 5 of advanced threat prevention. So we introduce CloudGuard SaaS, which is the only security solution in the market that prevents cyber criminals from hacking into SaaS applications. The solution will be available on May 18 and is now in early availability. The service, CloudGuard SaaS, is a cloud service by itself. It's a cloud service that protects other cloud services such as Office 365, G Suite, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Slack, Ignite, Box, and more. It has 4 pillars of protections: zero-day threat protection, identity protection, the ability to protect sensitive data, what is typically included with CASB offerings, and it is an end-to-end security solution for all the different SaaS applications and is integrated to our Infinity architecture. So how does the solution work? CloudGuard SaaS is a cloud service. It integrates with the different SaaS providers using APIs and Active Directory integration. It is integrated to the Checkpoint security stack, including a new security blade that prevents account takeovers, and it is integrated to our SandBlast for zero-day threat protection, to our data leak prevention blade, to our document encryption, and also to our smart event, providing the option to reveal shadow IT. The solution is integrated to the on-prem management and to the security gateway, and I will talk a little bit about the product synergies with the on-premise, another component of the Infinity architecture. So CloudGuard SaaS provides zero-day threat protection, and this pillar is about scanning SaaS applications and making sure that all the zero-day threats and malware are not getting into the SaaS applications, which becomes a bridgehead for the rest of the organization. Second, the security includes a comprehensive email security suite for Office 365 that includes an anti-phishing engine and the capability to also scan internal emails. Unlike traditional solutions and MTAs, this solution also scans internal correspondences in the organization, preventing lateral movement, and not only scanning the email that comes from the outside of the organization. We provide the following award-winning threat protection technologies with the solution. Threat emulation, which makes sure that we analyze and identify zero-day malware. Threat extraction, to immediately sanitize and clean documents from any active content so they can be immediately delivered to the customer clean. Antivirus, which protect against known malware. Anti-phishing for email, which scans the emails and makes sure that emails that contain phishing links or emails that are phishing and try to penetrate the organization are being blocked. So how does it actually work? The solution is deployed as an add-on to the SaaS application. It's like adding an add-on to your Facebook account or installing an app on your phone. And the way that it works is that the hacker can share or email malicious content. Once he's doing that, we get a notification to CloudGuard using the API that there is a new file shared on the platform. We send this file for scanning, and in case we find malware, we quarantine the file. It is very easy to deploy the solution. It does not require architecture changes to the network. It does not require changes in the network or routes or anything like that. It is like an add-on inside the SaaS application. Second pillar of the solution is the ability to protect identities. We do that with identity protection, which includes a new component called IDGuard, a patent-pending technology that identifies imposterious access. And it essentially blocks all the unauthorized users and devices from accessing the SaaS applications. So how does it work? We have only users that have the IDGuard solution deployed can access the SaaS application. They access the SaaS application through an identity server, which we integrate to. That can be ADFS, Azure AD, or Okta. And we send a query to the employee device to make sure that actually somebody who has IDGuard deployed on his mobile device is accessing the SaaS application. When the attacker tries to access the SaaS application, he will fail doing so because he doesn't have IDGuard registered on his device. Second, we also have the capability to protect the identities using a network-only mode solution. That is an agentless solution, which is about collecting network intelligence, is more heuristic in nature, but is immediately deployed throughout the organization. Here, the attacker accesses the application using stolen credentials. The identity server is integrated to our threat cloud for IP reputation and to our on-premise firewalls to identify if the user is now located in the office and is trying to log in from two places at the same time, and makes a decision whether to allow or not allow the login. Third pillar is data protection. This pillar works very similarly to malware protection. Some employee shares sensitive content. We get a notification from the SaaS application using API that a new file was shared. We scan that file, and if we see that it has a financial reports, credit card information, PII, we simply unshare the file. Or in case the customer has document security, we can automatically encrypt it. The last pillar of the solution is the ability to cover all the different SaaS applications end-to-end. In this case, we synchronize the policies between the gateway, mobile, and CloudGuard SaaS, and provide unified management across all the gateways, endpoints, and cloud. A bit of examples of the synergies that we have with the solution. We have on-premise security gateways that report the employee behavior and location. We have IP reputation intelligence feeds across Checkpoint customers. We have mobile PC and endpoint suite that are integrated to the solution, and detect malware and OS exploits and condition the SaaS access only to devices that are compliant. And we also provide shadow IT reporting, the ability to detect applications that are not authorized by the IT using our smart event reporting. This is the price for the solution. It is a $4 per user per month with a minimum 1-year commitment. The SKU is written below. It is to become available really any minute now for quoting the solution. A little bit about the competition. As you can see, our competition is focused around the CASB areas, visibility, DLP, shadow IT detection. On the other hand, when it comes to preventing threats and actually making sure they don't enter the SaaS application, that's where they fall short. We provide a zero-day threat prevention with the solution, with SandBlast. And when I say prevention, it means that the system works for the customers and remove the threats from the SaaS applications. Second, an account takeover prevention solution with a patent pending technology that takes care of the #1 problem today and the #1 attack vector that we see on SaaS applications, and a comprehensive email threat prevention for SaaS applications, both for Gmail and for Office 365 Outlook. As you can see, some of our competitors provide that typically using traditional MTA approaches and with separate products. To summarize, SaaS applications happens now, and we see the amount of them in the incident response reports. Cloud applications are at risk due to advanced external threats and account takeovers. And Check Point now offers to the market a new solution that can prevent those attacks and secure the customer environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my name is Gil Gabay, and I'm the product manager of the Smart One product line. And I'm very excited today to talk to you about three brand new Smart One appliances that we launched just recently. When we look at security management, then it's really a microcosmos of what we see in cybersecurity in general, and that is that there is a plethora of technologies and a myriad of different tools that the security admin needs to be able to operate and scale in order to effectively manage security. So as I said, we have a plethora of technologies and a myriad of tools, and what if you could do it all on one single machine? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce three all-new Smart One security management appliances that are powering the Gen 5 of cybersecurity. With these three new boxes, you can manage everything on a single machine, starting with policy and configuration management and going to logging and reporting, a full threat management view and forensic analysis and event report, all on one single machine, on one single box. What we've done is that we've more than doubled the logs per second rate of these new machines when you compare them to the previous line. So the new 525, 5050, and 5150 doubled the logs per second rate of their predecessors, the Smart One 225, the 3050, and the 3150. They do that while at the same time providing excellent user experience with up to 8 times faster response times for most admin operations and search operations. So search operations will complete in a number of seconds, as well as most admin operations. We've been able to do that by essentially doubling the spec of the different boxes. So we've doubled storage. They are all based on the latest Skylake CPU families. We've doubled the number of cores of the specific CPUs per the different Smart One model, and we've doubled the base memory. And that has allowed us to improve performance and capacity significantly, and all at a very similar price point to the previous line. So essentially, we've completed the refresh of the entire Smart One product line. Earlier in 2017, we refreshed the lower end models, the 405 and 410 that manage 5 gateways and 10 gateways respectively. And now we are launching the 3 higher end models, the 525, which manages up to 25 gateways, the 5050, which manages up to 50 gateways, and the 5150, which manages 150 gateways and above. Below the different appliances, you can see the logs rate that they support at peak logs rate, and I'll explain a little bit more detailed what that means. But we've doubled the logs rate when you compare it to the previous line of the Smart One models. So for example, the 525 has 4 cores, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and 8 terabytes of storage. Again, all of these parameters double what the previous line had. A quick look at the competitive landscape. So if you compare our Smart Ones to their equivalent at Fortinet or Palo Alto, there are a number of major differences and advantages that we have. For one, as I've mentioned before, we can do everything on one box. So the manager and logger reside on one box with one single pane of glass. If you compare that to the competition, then they would need a separate box as a manager for policy and configuration, and yet another box for logging. We do that all on a single machine with a single pane of glass. As far as the commercial model is, we bundle software and hardware as we've done in the past. And with these new models, we've reached a maximum log rate for the highest end model, the Smart One 5150, of 100,000 logs per second, which is the industry's highest logs ingestion rate. Let me explain in just a little bit more detail of what we mean by the logs rate numbers. So we are introducing 3 new measurements. One of them is the sustained logs rate, and all of these are detailed in the data sheet of the new Smart Ones. This is the indexing log rate, the sustained logs rate that can be sustained by the machine indefinitely, while at the same time exhibiting excellent user experience, excuse me, meaning that response times will be in a matter of seconds for search results and admin operations. This is the sustained logs rate, a measurement which we are introducing for these new Smart Ones. Then we have the peak logs rate, which is the maximum logs rate at which the system can collect logs without any backlog and with excellent user experience. And we've defined that as being sustainable for 1 hour. So the peak logs rate is sustainable for 1 hour. The sustainable logs rate, obviously, the machine can sustain indefinitely. Both of these are in indexed mode, meaning that the logs are indexed and can be free text searched. Then we have the peak logs rate for those customers that wish to run the system in non-indexed mode. And that is the maximum logs rate at which the system will collect logs, again, with excellent user experience, sustainable for 1 hour. These 3 represent the industry's highest logs rate. Let's dive into a little bit more detail, and here we have the data sheet of the entire line. Let's focus a little bit on the higher end line, on the 521, 5050, and 5150. So if you look at the highlighted section, these are the 3 new measurements that we're introducing. The sustained logs rate for the 525 is 7,000 logs per second. The peak index logs rate is 14,000 logs per second. Again, those numbers double what the previous line was able to support. The second number that you see, for example, at the peak index logs rate is, so you'll have 14,000 logs per second peak for the 525. You have 1,600 if that is run in smart event mode. So if smart event is indexing, then that will be the logs rate. Okay, what's new with these 5 series smart ones? They all come with the new Gaia OS, so are the first appliances to ship with the new Gaia OS, the new kernel. As I mentioned before, they are based on the latest Skylake CPU family with double the number of cores than the previous models. Another newcomer is SSD support. We will be supporting SSD for this new Smart One line, and that is coming in the second quarter of this year. We have a new SAN card that quadruples the speed of the previous one. And also there is a more modular and extensible memory support for these machines. Let's have a quick look at the configurations, focusing on storage and memory. So for the 525, we have 2 4 terabyte hard disks. The maximum RAM currently supported is 64 gigabytes of RAM. The default network interface is the 4-port copper gigabit interface, and we will be offering 2 optional fiber interface cards, 1 gig and 10 gig. These are available as accessories. It is a 1U sized box. And as I've mentioned, the SAN card interface as well as SSD will be available in the second quarter of this year. For the 5050, we have 4 4-terabyte hard disks, and the RAM starts at the 64 gigabytes at the base. Regarding the network interface, that is similar, and the options are similar to the 525. For the 5150, we have a base configuration of 6 4-terabyte hard disks, extensible up to 12 terabyte 4-terabyte hard disks. The base RAM starts at 128 gigabytes. And as far as the network interfaces, it comes with the same default and optional network interfaces as the other new models. As far as the price goes, we have kept a very similar price point while doubling the spec and the capacity of these machines. So the 525 starts at $35,000, the 5050 at $50,000, and the 5150 at $90,000. Let's go a little bit into the accessories. So we have accessory kits as far as memory goes for the 3 models. For the 525, we have a memory upgrade to 64 gigabytes. For the 5050 to 128, and for the 5150 to 256 gigabytes of memory, and coming in at a price of $10,000 for the lower end model and $18,000 for the 5150. It's also possible to extend with 4 terabyte hard disks. And there's 2 interface cards, one gigabyte fiber, which runs at $1,800, and 10 gigabyte at $1,100, $11,000, I'm sorry. And again, as I've mentioned before, we will be providing also SSD and a SAN card, and as soon as that's ready, we will release pricing for that. A quick view at the additional configurations. So we will be releasing and launching a high performance package in the second quarter of this year for the 5150. One will be based on HDD, and the other one will be a hybrid of HDD and SSD for the 3 models. At the same time, customers will be able to purchase SSD as an accessory in 2 flavors, in 2 terabyte and 4 terabyte storage sizes. That's all coming in Q2. We'll also increase the maximum memory that can be supported on these machines for the 5050 and 5150 to 768 gigabytes of memory. Currently, it maxes out at 128 gigabytes for the 5050 and 256 for the 5150. SAN card coming in the second quarter of this year, and an integrated lights out management in the third quarter that will be integrated with the Gaia OS running on those smart new boxes. Okay, so I'm very excited about these three new smart ones, and I'm confident that they will provide an excellent user experience for the customers at a very good price point. So with that, I'll give it back to Noam. Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. And what we'll do is we'll start with the Infinity Total Protection questions, and then move over to the CloudGuard, and then finalize with the smart one. So on the Infinity Total Protection, one of the questions that was asked is, what if the customer needs more appliances than the 50% calculated? So essentially, we have two ways that this can work. One way is that the customer can get a multi-year deal and pay upfront. Let's say he gets 3 years, he pays upfront for the 3 years on day one, and he's able to consolidate all the purchases and all the 3 years budget into the first year. Another way is that we can raise, or he can decide to raise his yearly payment. Therefore, every $50, for example, $350 will give him 60%, and every $50 will get him 10% more. Another question which was asked is, what type of hardware devices is included in the Infinity Total Protection? So essentially, all the hardware devices that we have are included. Other than what we call third party, for example, DDoS is not part of the Infinity Total Protection. Let's quickly go over here. Okay. I'll move over to Yoav.
So this is Yoav. I saw a few questions on the panel. A few questions on the panel were focused on our Office SandBlast for Office 365 product. So the CloudGuard SaaS solution includes the functionality, similar functionality to what SandBlast for Office 365 included. We are working on a business and technical solution that will become available to you with all the details to offer a migration to the new product. The new product covers a multitude of SaaS applications, covers data leak use cases, and most important, covers account takeover. It is a revamped new offering, and we also understand that we need to address the existing Office 365 offering, and this will be addressed with you as soon as possible.
Okay, moving over to Gil.
Okay, thanks, Noam. So there were three questions raised, which I'd like to address. One was, will there be a 10 gig fiber NIC interface NIC card available? Yes, it is available now, together with the smart ones as an accessory. It's a 2-port interface card. The second question was, does SSD improve the performance? And the answer is that yes. So on top of the excellent capacity and performance numbers that we are seeing, SSD will improve further on that. Currently, what we've seen is an improvement of around 30% on the logging rate. And at the same time, we've seen a reduction by a factor of 2 on the critical response time, such as searches in logs, for example. Once we complete testing of the SSD, we will obviously publish numbers based on the performance of the SSD. A third question that was raised, which I'd like to address, is regarding the existing line, the 225, 3050, and 3150. Will we be updating the lifecycle page? So the answer to that is yes. The previous line will still be available this year, and the new Smart One line supports 80.10 and up. Therefore, if a customer needs to run 77.30, they will have to go with the existing Smart One product line. Thank you. Back to Noam.
Thank you, Gil. I think with that, we will conclude our session. We had a couple of more questions which were asked, and we can always get back to them. As I mentioned earlier, this session is recorded and will be available on the wiki, including the presentations, in the next couple of days. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you managed to get a bit more information about the 3 new services and products we have launched. Thank you very much.